Good morning to my friends listening on demand. It's close to time to start, but we're starting a little early, so you know how it works. We do commercials, we do all kinds of waiting around for a minute or two until the sound comes through in the chat room, and I will let you know because you'll hear me talking baseball as soon as it happens. I will say hi to everybody once they could hear me. We just love our friends in the chat room. We hope you can make it every day, so you have no excuse to miss the chat room every day, because at 9 o'clock a.m., some day of the week, you're available to come listen to some baseball with your friends in the chat room. It's not just the stuff you learn here, it's the stuff you talk about, you argue about, you guys talk players, values, everything. So we just appreciate the people that come to the chat room. We appreciate you listening on demand too, and dealing with this BS every day. So I'm just going to be quiet until we get sound. That way you know where to start. Okay, I see the sound in the chat room. Now we're going to tell them to refresh.
There you go.
There you go. Welcome aboard to all my friends and all our friends. We just love it. Every day we spend with you, we can't be happier. We're thankful, not just Thanksgiving. Every day of the year, we're thankful for you, for our friends talking baseball. You guys really make a big impact on our life, and we really appreciate all of you. So Chris from Cambridge is here. We will talk about whose birthday it is today. One great thing Chris from Cambridge does is he always posts in the chat room whose birthday it is on the day of. Chris and Debbie Gallo, Eddie and Teresa Heckman, Leonard, Timothy Myhooker, Tommy Johnson, Triple Play, Boston Paul, King Turd, and the Turd family. We love it out there in Oklahoma. Okay? Malpal might be late today because he took his daughter to the Gulls game yesterday. I know you guys in the chat room like to tease Malpal about the Gulls, but they went, had hot dogs. It looked like a fun family day. So let's see, where do we start? First, we're going to tell you that it is hard-hitting Witten birthday today, turns 57. He's only one of two players in Major League history to hit 4 home runs and drive in 12 runs in one game. Happy birthday to hard-hitting Witten, turning 57 today. All right, there you go. Now, on Thursday, we had some football, right? We're not a big football show, but we do some tidbits when we find some good ones. Every NFL game on Thursday had a defensive touchdown. It was the first time there were at least 3 games on a given day in regular or postseason, and every one of them had a defensive touchdown since 1966, okay? So that's a good tidbit. What do you think about one team signing both Yamamoto and Ohtani, both Japanese players? I mean, you know, Yamamoto, according to the media, has said that he would like to play on a team with another Japanese player, and I would have just assumed that's probably a given, right? But that's going to cost a lot of money, but people are talking about it, and I would say the only team that comes to mind when I see this question posed, okay, is the Mets. I just can't imagine any other team doing it. What do you guys think in the chat room? Where's Taco? Is Taco coming around?
I don't know if that's the real Taco or just guest Taco.
Guest Taco? Are you serious? There's no such thing as a guest Taco. That's not a name, right?
Taki. No, it's not Taco. Sorry.
Oh, it's Guest Taki. Okay. All right. The Tigers are interested in Kenta Maeda. They say that the Tigers' talks with free agent Kenta Maeda have intensified in recent days. That's according to Evan Petzold. Petzold, no G in that. I did a little bit of, investigating into Kenta Maeda. He missed the whole 2022 season, and he actually ended up in the bullpen. In September, about the 28th of September, Maeda, it was said that he would not have another start last season, so he said they figured that he would be involved in the bullpen to end the season. I'm going to tell you a little bit. He missed 2022. He had Tommy John surgery. He was great in 2020. He made 11 starts with a 2.70 ERA and a 7.0 WHIP. All right? But in 21, he had a 4.66 ERA, and then he missed all of 2022 with Tommy John. Maeda, now let me see, do I have his age here? I think he's 32. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have his age. But the point is, he's shown some talent, and he really, I do like a guy without these high velocities, okay? And he absolutely depends on his outstanding accuracy. He only walks 4% of batters, okay? And his velocity averages about 92 miles an hour. That is below average velocity, but I don't think that's a bad thing. He limited hard contact he was in the 98th percentile. So, yes, he doesn't throw hard, but he's very good at command. He can get the ball over the plate. He doesn't walk a lot of batters, and chances are good he should be stable. He strikes out batters, even though he doesn't throw 99. He's still able to strike out batters. He was drafted 321 ADP going into this past season, 2023. Now, depending on where he goes, clearly that's going to affect his ADP. But the point is, no matter what his ADP is, it's still going to be really low or really high. Depends on how you look at it. You're going to be able to draft him late in drafts. So he is absolutely worth a look in your drafts this year. It doesn't really matter where he goes as long as he's going to be a starter again. But I do want to point out once again that he ended last season in the bullpen. He ended the season 6-8 with a 4.23 ERA, but his whip, of course, is decent because he never walks people. So we'll see what happens there. Yes, I know. It kind of does sound like we're talking about Jordan Montgomery in terms of pitching style. That's true because, as I've pointed out many times before, and Sonny Gray, Zach Gallen, they're all like this. They do not spend all their time trying to increase their velocity. And when you see a guy that's pitching in the major leagues and his velocity is under 95, then you know he's doing something right. Now, Malpal is here, you say?
Malpal and Zelmo.
Welcome to Malpal, Tina, and everybody in the Malpal family. I hope you had a great game last night at the Gulls hockey game. I hope you got to see many fights. Just kidding. Zelmo and Tony, welcome aboard. Wonderful to see you both. We really appreciate everybody here today. Now, Danny is missing. I know. I hope you listen in on demand, Danny. We miss you when you're not here, but he's been very busy getting ready for the holidays. His wife and him, they put up all kinds of Christmas decorations. They're very busy, so we'll let it slide. But Danny, we miss you. The San Francisco Giants could get Matt Chapman, right? The Giants last year pulled the ball the fourth most in the league, 42.4%, and they hit the 11th most fly balls, 38.2% fly ball rate. And that is exactly what Chapman would bring to the team should they decide to take the plunge. All right. What about the White Sox? Why did they... First of all, they should have just brought back Elvis Andrus if they were going to... their option... Hold on. If they were going to get Paul DeJong, why didn't they just keep Elvis Andrus? That's my question. Guess what team has spent the most money out of any American League team since 2010? That would be the Yankees. And how many World Series have they won? How many World Series have they even appeared in? I think that answer is an astounding 0, okay? What about free agent right-hander Vladimir Gutierrez? He's got several teams interested in him. He's now 28, but he was a high-profile prospect that signed with the Reds after he defected from his native Cuba. The club gave him a bonus of $4.75 million, but they actually had to pay a lot more than that. They had to pay double under the old bonus system, which was 100% tax for going over the limit. And that means they paid $9.5 million to get Gutierrez into the system. He elected to take free agency. He was removed from the Reds' 40-man roster on October 27, 2023, and then he opted to test out free agency rather than accept an outright assignment. He didn't pitch at all in the majors last year because of Tommy John surgery setback. He was recovering from Tommy John, and then he had a setback, and he hasn't done jack turd.
Repeat his name.
Vladimir Gutierrez.
Laura's here.
Good morning to Laura. Welcome aboard, lady.
Big Al's here.
Big Al, great to see you. It's so nice, all of you here. We really like it.
Tommy Johnson.
Tommy Johnson, I love all your positive posts every day. It's great. I should learn something from you. All right. 2021, he pitched 114 innings, 4.74 ERA, a 1.41 whip, 88 strikeouts in 114 innings, so it's not great. Also, he only strikes out 17.7% of batters that he faces, which is absolutely unacceptable. And he walked 9.3% of hitters, so he's walking twice what Kenta Maeda walks. However, he is a free agent, and just keep an eye on what he does. He'll probably get a job, maybe a minor league deal, but he'll probably get a job pitching for somewhere. He might be one guy that I'm going to look at in spring training, but if this guy can't figure out how to strike out more batters, okay, he does not deserve to have any more podcast minutes dedicated to him. Noelvi Marte, he deserves some podcast minutes, right? King Turd. Noelvi Marte made his big league debut for the Reds in the final weeks of the 2023 season. Now he's playing at the Dominican Winter League, and he is off to a great start. He's playing down there. The other day on Tuesday, he helped lead his team to a 5-0 victory. He went 3 for 4 with a double, 2 singles, an RBI, and a run scored. Now, Marte only played 35 games last year for Cincinnati, but he is the favorite to get the starting third base job when next year starts. So, I'm telling you, he's down there, he's hitting in the Winter League, and we like it. So, Noelvi Marte is great. He did also, now, he his main position, like I said, he's the favorite to get the third base job. He's playing some shortstop down there, so that's an interesting thing to point out. He's 22 years old. He split his time between shortstop and third base, but I do think he'll be at third base. Anyway, wherever he lines up defensively, it's his bat that's going to keep him in the lineup. He will have rookie eligibility once again next season, and he ended the major league debut on a 16-game hitting streak. Another youngster that I think is worth mentioning again. I know you all know who he is, but Christian Encarnacion Strand, okay, the first baseman. He'll be 24 years old on December 1st. Last year, between the minors and the majors, okay, 557 plate appearances, 94 runs scored, 33 homers, 4 stolen bases, 99 RBI, a .331 batting average in the minors, and a .270 batting average in the majors. Out of those 557 plate appearances, 241 of them were in the major leagues. 29 of his 94 runs were in the majors, and going on like that. Now, what can we project from him? I just did a rough estimate of what I think he might be able to do next year. So here we go. My first 2024 projection for a player: 265 batting average, 315 on base percentage, 75 runs, 33 homers, and 90 RBIs for Encarnacion Strand. One great thing to note too, just like his buddy Noelvi Marte, he ended the season great. He went deep in the majors 13 times total last year, but 5 of those were in his final 9 games of the season, and he hit 8 of those in September.
This is your Cincinnati report.
This is my Cincinnati report?
Yeah, you did 4 Reds.
Oh, I did 4 Reds.
Yes, Cincinnati report.
My Cincinnati report is now over. The Yankees are apparently interested in Cody Bellinger. Laura, you missed what I said. I asked the question earlier if Yamamoto and Ohtani could sign with the same team. And I also said that the only team I could think of that comes to me immediately when I see that question is the Mets. So I'm sure you'll like that idea. The Mets with Yamamoto and Ohtani. Can you believe it? That would be great times had by all. All right. So, of course, the Yankees are interested in Cody Bellinger. I thought that was okay, whatever. The Yankees are interested in every good player. But John Heyman did point out a couple things when he brought this up yesterday or the day before. He says that the Yankees have one particular concern when it comes to Bellinger. He says that they're concerned about his hard hit rate. It ranked in just the 10th percentile last season, but I say to that, does it really matter? Because he still managed to hit 26 home runs and bat .307 with an .881 OPS, okay? So, yes, Cody Bellinger's hard contact is very low, okay? It's very low. 10th percentile. Good morning to Mitchell. But, all right, so his hard contact is in the 10th percentile, which I never would have known had John Heyman not brought it up to me, because it certainly didn't come through in his overall stat. And also, another thing, for fantasy relevance, importance, I would say it's more important that he cut down on his strikeout rate 12% from 2022, okay? And also, if the Yankees are interested, I could tell you why they're interested right away, and it's probably because he's a lefty, and the Bronx is a haven for lefties, all right? He also plays great defense. Good morning to James K. So the Yankees will look at Bellinger and they'll look at other guys like Juan Soto. But we'll see. I think it's Daniel as guest Antoinette eating cake, right? Good morning to Daniel, the Hulkster Maniac. Now let's talk about some disappointing players. Jake McCarthy, pretty disappointing, right? He was 111, he was drafted last year. 111 overall. He finished the season with a .243 batting average, 2 home runs, 16 RBIs, 37 runs, but he did steal 26 bases. He's a lefty, okay? Now, he signed a 1-year deal, so he's stuck there. The Diamondbacks, his 1-year contract will end March 2024. I said hi to Daniel already. He plays 2 outfield positions, center field and right field. And I guess the reason he got drafted 111 overall is because he had a breakout season in 2022 when he made adjustments at the plate, and he does have elite speed, but his OPS declined by more than 100 points. He also was demoted to the minors more than once. We aren't really sure what's going to happen to him, but he does seem to have the starting job in right field if the Arizona Diamondbacks don't hire another right fielder. And as I mentioned earlier, he can play center field. So we don't really know what's going to happen. If McCarthy's value drops, if his ADP, clearly it's going to be way after the 111 mark. But he still does have that speed. Kyle Wright, most disappointing player for the Atlanta Braves, 22 years old. No, 28 years old. There's a big difference. But in 2022, he led the league with 21 wins, okay? Now, 2023, he finished the season with a 7 ERA, and he also got demoted to the bullpen. He's got a 1-year, $750,000 contract with Atlanta, and then he was traded to the Royals, so he is no longer Atlanta's problem. He is a Kansas City Royal now. He's not pitching next year, so don't draft him, okay? But we're talking about the most disappointing players on each team, and Atlanta did not have a whole bunch of them. So we got Kyle Wright. He's not pitching next year. Better late than never, James K. Good morning to everybody. Good morning to Malpal, Tina, everybody. Daniel, Gallows. Baltimore Orioles. Who was the most disappointing player on the Baltimore Orioles? Eddie. This one's for you. Now, I couldn't find a very disappointing player on the Baltimore Orioles that played with the team all season, so let's just go ahead and give the honors to Jack Flaherty, okay? Even though the Orioles were pretty quiet at the trade deadline, they did acquire Jack Flaherty from the Cardinals, and what did he do? He stunk. He did not get back to his early career pitching at all. He's got arm problems. They only got worse after he came to Baltimore. He posted an ERA above 6. He was demoted to the bullpen. Another guy getting demoted to the bullpen, Jack Flaherty. Interestingly enough, we didn't draft Jack Flaherty huge last year. In fact, his ADP was 229. But I'd like to remind you of that one great year for Jack Flaherty. In 2019, he threw 196 innings, okay, 2.75 ERA, and a .97 whip. Since then, it has not been great. In 2020, 2021, and 2022, he did not throw more than 78 innings in any of those 3 seasons, okay? Then last year he came back, and between Baltimore and St. Louis, he threw 144 innings. Okay, that's a huge jump, over 100-inning increase from the year before. And he did okay in that 78 innings in 2021. So I'll give him that. His ERA was 3.22 with the 106 whip. But lately, the last 2 seasons, Jack Flaherty, 4.25 ERA, and then last year a 4.99 ERA, but even worse than that is his whip, okay? Close to 160. You can't be having it, okay? It's not good. Last year was a huge jump in innings pitched, as I mentioned, but he didn't do good. So what are we doing with Flaherty? Are we going to, yes, Eddie, our resident Baltimore fan, says that Jack Flaherty was one of the mistakes made by Mark Elias. And Cedric Mullins, King Turds brings up Cedric Mullins for the most disappointing player on the Orioles. That is absolutely true. He was a platoon bat by the end of the season. Now, I didn't even look at Cedric Mullins. One of you, tell me what you're going to do with Cedric Mullins. I'm willing to give the kid another try on my fantasy roster, especially if he drops in the later rounds. I mean, this guy has high potential. I don't know if his season was marred by injuries or if he just, out of the blue, I'll have to do a little more looking into Cedric Mullins to find out what I think of him. King Turd says stay away from him. Now what, but you have to, it's not just like that, because what if, there has to be a point where even you, King Turd, would draft Cedric Mullins. I mean, it's not like just stay away from him altogether. Where's he going to go in drafts? I'd love to see where he goes. This is one of those most interesting players. If he falls late enough, this guy can steal bases. He can hit homers. There's that. Oh, Turd points out that he can't hit lefties, and unless he figures out how to hit lefties, that could be a big problem, and especially it could cause him to lose at bats. Eddie said Cedric Mullins had 2 injuries that actually hurt him. But if he can't hit lefties, that's something to keep in mind. Chris from Cambridge wonders how Jorge Mateo would hit if he had a consistent spot in the lineup. Good grief, these players, these hitters can't hit depending on where they are in the lineup. It just sounds so ridiculous to me, but Lenny agrees with you. He thinks that a regular spot in the lineup matters. Malpel brings up Jack Flaherty, saying he had major shoulder problem. Same type as what Woodruff has, he thinks. What about Garrett Whitlock for the Red Sox? Boston Paul, Garrett Whitlock. The upside seemed pretty high for Whitlock in his first 2 seasons with Boston, but then he was plagued by injuries all last season. Here's the good news. He has control of the strike zone still, all right? So control, we like it, but the Red Sox really don't have any evidence that they can rely on him between his injuries, which I say is a huge part of it. The guy cannot stay healthy. And his ERA above 5, now I guess you could probably blame that partially on the injuries. But this guy you're stuck with him, Red Sox fans. 4 years, $18.75 million contract extension he signed in April of 2022. He's got a team option for 2027 and 2028, so you can better believe he will be a Red Sox throughout this next season. Last year he was drafted 294 ADP. I think, this is just me, but Garrett Whitlock could be a good closer, okay? He got some saves in September when he was put into the bullpen. He got his 9th career save September 28th, and then, he's 27 years old, and he was solid. When they threw him in relief, he had a 2.89 ERA, a .86 whip, in September, okay? But he ended the season 71 and 2/3 innings, 5.15 ERA, and a 1.33 whip, 72 strikeouts to 13 walks. What do you think of Whitlock Maybe he'll be a closer. If he could stay healthy even for that, okay? I know they have Kenley Jansen over there. So, Jameson Taillon, the Cubbies. Most expensive signing of the offseason. He earned $68 million contract over 4 years after he had a great season with the Yankees. Now, I give this guy all the respect in the world for his work ethic and his just grit to come back. That guy's been thrown every kind of illness and injury, and he just keeps working his way back. But that cannot cloud my mind when I'm drafting for my fantasy team this year. When he went to the Cubbies, he broke out of the gate very slowly. He was the worst starting pitcher on the Cubbies for a large portion of 2023. The good news is that he did pitch better down the stretch, okay? His ERA was under 4 in the second half, but he finished the season with a 4.84 ERA, a 1.28 whip, and 140 strikeouts. His record was 8-10. Last year, we drafted him 247 ADP. He gave up some home runs last year, 1.6 homers per 9. Now, one big problem that I have with Jameson Taillon, and Malpal, you're going to like this one. He used to be I think one of the things that made him so good was that he was able to induce a ton of ground balls. In fact, when he first came into baseball, he induced 52% ground balls. The next year, 47%. Yada, yada, yada. In the high 40s is my point. Now he's down to 37.9, which we could round up to 38% ground ball rate. He will never be a great pitcher again if he cannot induce more ground balls than 37%. Danny, welcome aboard. Danny and Penny, it's so wonderful to see you on this great morning. Captain Danny made it to the chat room. We're happy to see you. The White Sox most disappointing player. Now, there were a few, right, Daniel? The Chicago White Sox, Daniel. Are you still proud to be a White Sox fan? Okay. All right, just kidding. Tim Anderson has to be the worst disappointing player, right? He might be the most disappointing player in all of baseball, but we'll give him the White Sox badge of honor because it's hard to be the most disappointing player on the White Sox. Okay? Let's see. Danny. Great to see you, Danny. Okay. The decline for Tim Anderson started in 2022 with a sub-600 OPS and unbelievably only one home run for the season. He never even came close to hitting 300, which ended his streak at hitting 300 for 3 consecutive seasons, and he really does seem to be at a crossroads at age 30. He's a free agent now. The good thing for him is there's not that many good shortstops on the market this year. So, where are we drafting Tim Anderson? I will never put him on my fantasy team, but that's just me. Danny's been on the go. He was at the UCLA versus South Carolina? No. UCLA versus SC. Is that USC? I don't know.
USC. Southern California.
USC, okay. Great to see ya. Cincinnati Reds. What are we doing about Tim Anderson in the chat room, please? Will Myers, Cincinnati Reds, most disappointing players. Will Myers, remember very well, he used to be a Padre. Then the Cincinnati Reds actually splurged on Will Myers. It was one of the few free agents that Cincinnati actually went in on, but he was a huge bust. You know that Will Myers is only going to be 33 this year? To me, it feels like he's been around forever. He only played 37 games before he got designated for assignment in June. He batted .189 with 3 homers, 12 RBIs, 11 runs scored, and 2 stolen bases. His baseball future is unclear, and he hasn't caught on with anybody, so he hasn't. Who knows if he will even come back to baseball. His previous history in the majors could be enough to at least get him a minor league deal, but I wouldn't count on seeing him in the majors this year. George Bell. Who doesn't love the White Sox? Well, I don't know how anybody could love the White Sox, but guess Boston Paul is going to pay $8 for Tim Anderson. Now, Daniel, the resident White Sox fan, knows much better than that, and he just laughs at Boston Paul for paying $8. But Boston Paul, he'll outspin anybody in the chat room, okay? He's a big spinner in the chat room. Whip Myers, that's right, Malfell, okay? All right, the Guardians, a.k.a. the Indians. Who is the Indians' most disappointing player in 2023? We're giving that award to Ahmed Rosario. Lenny loved Ahmed Rosario, okay? Going in, he used to be a Met. We know that. That's where we found Ahmed Rosario, and Lenny's liked him ever since. Now, he ended up over there in Cleveland, and he was a solid regular both offensively and defensively for the Guardians over the previous 2 seasons, but he struggled last year before he got traded to the Dodgers at the deadline. He had a .675 OPS. It was only 40 points lower than last season, but it was his defensive decline that was even more concerning. And I know defense does not count in fantasy, but if you have poor defense, it's harder to get into the lineup. So then it's impossible to get fantasy points. So the market, since he is a free agent now, Danny, did you like him over for the Dodgers? How was he doing for you over there? He finished the season with 6 home runs, 58 RBIs, 15 stolen bases, a .268 average. He did have 36. No, he played second base 36 times and shortstop 104 times. So that's one good thing for fantasy managers, that he will be eligible at both second and shortstop, so your middle and field positions for your fantasy league. But that's about the only good thing I could say about him right this minute. I do think his ADP will be reasonable this year, and I do think he'll get a job. Don't forget about Ahmed Rosario if you're drafting before he happens to sign somewhere. He might be an excellent late round pick. $128 we paid for him last year, ADP.
I like him.
And Lenny chimes in, he likes him.
Okay.
Couple more, Leonard.
That's it.
And then we're done. Mitchell, love it when you come and give your input. He says Tim Anderson will be forced to take a 1-year pillow contract to reestablish his bona fides. That is true. That is very true. Just checking up with the chat room. Whip Myers, that's great. Okay. Chris Bryant was the most disappointing Colorado Rockies, and that's another feat that's not that easy to do. Unholy quit baseball for a while, but we got to call him on the phone. Thanks for reminding us. We must call Unholy and get him back in here. He's part of the family too. Bryant has now been plagued by injuries in the first 2 seasons of his 7-year, $182 million contract, okay, with Colorado. Now, unlike his first year in Colorado, he also failed to hit this season with a sub-700 OPS. He finished the season 300 at-bats. In 2022, he had 160 at-bats, so he hasn't had a full season in a while, and even though Going into last year, he had only had 160 at-bats in 22. We drafted him ADP 121 overall. He finished the season with a .233 batting average, 10 home runs, 31 RBIs, 0 stolen bases, okay? But the Rockies are stuck with him. If he's healthy, he's going to have a job every day. He's 32 coming up here. Yes, and he is definitely too busy cashing checks to come to work. The Detroit Tigers, most disappointing player, I have to give it to Javi Baez. All right. There were a lot of people that didn't think Baez could get any worse than his first season in Detroit, okay? But he proved them wrong. His OPS dropped nearly 100 points in 2023. He failed to hit 10 home runs, okay? His defense was the only saving grace, okay? And he does have 4 years remaining. So, here's the nitty and the gritty for Javi Baez. Last year, we drafted him 173 overall. He'll probably go like 300 this year. He finished with 9 home runs and 12 stolen bases. And yes, that was a disappointment, but he's still stealing bases. He'll be 31 years old. And it was the first time that he finished with fewer than 10 home runs since 2015. He is not. He's another guy cashing checks, right? $140 million, 6 years. He had an opt-out in his contract, but he obviously wasn't going to opt out, okay, because nobody else. But he is. This is another one, another Chris Bryant here, in the sense that they're both going to play because of their contracts. No matter how unhealthy or how bad they are playing. Now, Javi Baez, not my favorite, has a lot of problems. I saw this coming several years now with his batting average because he strikes out way too much. But if you actually look at his strikeout rate, it's been better than it was when he was hitting 280. Okay? I'm not passing him up if he's available in the 300th pick. I'm just not passing him up. I get that he's not a starter, but that's it. That's all I'm doing today. The next week, we're going to go with the Houston Astros. We're going to tell you who their most disappointing player was. And tomorrow, Lenny and I will talk about some other free agents and tidbits and nuggets. And we just love having you around. We enjoy every morning at 9 a.m. with our friends in the chat room, talking baseball, getting away from the world, which is a horror show. Thank you to everybody. We love you. Yes, there's Whiff Myers with the page. Okay, that's great. Thanks to everybody. Thanks. Laura, Mary, Lenny, Malpal, Tina, Rotorius, Eddie, Teresa, Danny and Penny, Daniel Ferrara, Chris and Debbie, Chris from Cambridge, Big Al on the prowl. We must do lunch again. And I can't see past Rotorius. Timothy Hooker, Tommy Johnson, Triple Play, Zelmo and Tony, Boston Paul, Diana, and the rest.